Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. But I have a question to start off with, which is, why are you here? I believe it's because a child needs you. Like you, someone introduced me to ProKids. In 1992, I became a ProKids Casa Volunteer. Now, my parents taught me that justice was worth fighting for. I went to law school to learn how to be a lawyer, but it was actually volunteering at ProKids that truly taught me how to advocate. In 1993, I joined the staff as an attorney. Now, as a Casa Volunteer, I was assigned to speak up for children who'd been abused and neglected and were placed in foster care. My role was to get to know them, understand their needs, and advocate for them. I was privileged to work closely with ProKids staff, including my supervisor, known as a Casa manager, and a ProKids attorney. And together, we're what we call a ProKids advocacy team. Now, our first job was to make sure the children were safe. Then we needed to make sure they had access to services to help them heal. And what they're healing from is trauma. It is not just the trauma, though, of being abused and neglected. It's also the trauma of being taken from the only family they've ever known. Now, we needed to advocate passionately and persuasively on behalf of our children's best interests before Hamilton County Juvenile Court, which oversees all the children in the child protection system. But ultimately, what we were doing is making recommendations about who should raise these children. As you probably can imagine, this work has allowed me to witness children with broken bodies and spirits, and also the power of resilience. This year, I have heard from so many people that they have never been more concerned about the future of our children. And the truth is, we're facing some brutal facts. Abuse and neglect, mental health, substance abuse, and poverty are so completely intertwined that they leave kids traumatized, affecting every aspect of their lives. When kids enter school with this kind of toxic stress, they struggle to pay attention, to participate, to learn. Why is that? Because they're often distracted, scanning the room for changes in expression on people's faces that tell them they're about to be hit. That skill, which allowed them to survive a violent environment, becomes their kryptonite in school. And if they aren't reading by third grade, they're not going to graduate. And then the cycle continues. People have told me how sickened they are about young children terrorized by violence, who then grow into teens full of deep despair, who then begin to self-medicate, resulting in babies born addicted, suffering painful withdrawal from drugs, with no family to hold or comfort them. I can't stand it, and I bet you can't either. So growing up, my dad often said, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. There are no sidelines to watch from. It is painful and heartbreaking to know that children suffer, but the truth is we are not helpless. We have the power to save them, and we're in the fight of our lives for our community. Now, what is at the core of all that is beautiful and all that is tragic is family. It's your family, it's my family, it's families a block from here and families miles away. It is the families we're born into and the families we create that are the foundation of everything that we achieve, and together our families make up this community. And it's our community that is the true legacy that we leave to our children. ProKids exists because of children right here in Cincinnati that have been abused and neglected so severely they've entered the child protection system. In Hamilton County alone, that is about 3,500 children. These are the worst of the worst situations out of the 20,000 children who annually receive help from the county due to maltreatment. And they stem from more than 65,000 calls a year to 241 Kids to report suspected abuse and neglect. Now, ProKids' vision is a safe, permanent, and nurturing home for every child. And we work to achieve this vision by mobilizing the community to break this very vicious cycle of abuse and neglect. Day to day, we're recruiting, training, and supporting community volunteers to speak up for these children and help guide them to safe environments where they actually have an opportunity to thrive. Since 1981, ProKids has served thousands of children. Now, Casa Volunteers are amazing people. They bring the gifts of time, common sense, and caring, and they come from all walks of life. They are united in their deep commitment to our children. They're on the front line every day, visiting our children, their families, calling social workers, therapists, and teachers, and working with all of these folks to create plans to get kids to their forever family. ProKids volunteers and staff collaborate with all sorts of busy, hardworking professionals from every single system that touches a child's life. And we work to create alliances within the child protection system to maximize outcomes for our kids. The why is because these kids' lives hang in the balance. The lives of children like the beautiful toddler whose serious injuries no one can explain, but who has a CASA, who's an RN, combing over thousands of pages of medical records to ensure his treatment is coordinated and that his loving grandmother is instructed in his care. Children like the bright 17-year-old taken to the psych ward after an altercation with her mother who didn't know what else to do. And ProKids is working to ensure she and her mom are engaged in therapy and that the girl can go home in time for her high school graduation. Children like the preschooler who revealed to her therapist she was being abused after her CASA fought for her to get therapy. Now, this adorable little girl was adopted after her CASA manager, and her ProKids attorney advocated in and out of court that she have a forever family where she would be safe and secure. And finally, children like Mia, whose brave voice you will actually get to hear today narrating her family's journey. I am here this morning to say thank you to the ProKids community for being there for Mia and to invite others to stand up for our children. But there's another brutal truth, and that is in recent years, there have been stunning increases in the children entering the court system. Many coming into the county taking action, and a growing number because relatives are filing in court. Today, there are so many children right here in our city waiting for our help. And as long as these children are simply the responsibility of a system, we as a community don't see them as our own. And children like Mia won't be in the kind of home every child deserves. Why? Because the foster care system was designed to protect children in the short term, not to raise them. It is overburdened with the staggering number of children who need help. Now, there are so many unanswered questions. How will this trauma affect our kids? Will they self-destruct? Will they lash out? Will they heal? But they're questions for us too. Will we decide to take action today? Or will we leave it to the next generation to deal with the aftermath? It is not an agency or a system that cares for children. It is a committed community. Now, since we began telling you ProKids' story, you have shown us what's possible. Thanks to our Friends of Children Society members who've made multi-year pledges to ProKids and all of our supporters, we've been able to add passionate and dedicated staff members and volunteers, and we deeply appreciate your support. Our supporters understand that mobilizing the community is highly effective, and I'm going to give you just a few quick examples. First of all, we've been able to nearly triple the number of children we serve. That means last year, a record 267 Casa Volunteers spoke up for 887 children. And most importantly, abuse and neglect stopped for 99% of the children we serve. Even better, that's a rate we've been able to maintain for over 20 years. But I'm also here to tell you there is a lot more to do. Our urgent goal is to get the community's help to every child in need. And we know reaching this vision helps break a cycle of abuse and neglect that span generations, but also to create a new cycle of growing up safe and confident. But how do we get there? With more people spreading the word about our kids, with more volunteers stepping forward to serve, and with more staff to train and guide them. But that's not all. We also need to disrupt the flow of children pouring into the system by launching new strategies to locate capable and caring relatives to take custody of our children. These relatives have often divorced themselves from dysfunctional family members after years of trying to help. They might not even know the kids are in foster care. So we need to find them for our kids. And we need to build stronger alliances for our children, welcoming experts in planning, research, and team building for our community's most respected businesses and academic institutions to volunteer to help optimize these systems that are serving our kids. We need to deploy them throughout the child protection system wherever they can be a catalyst for better outcomes. Now, doesn't every child deserve a safe, permanent, and nurturing home? Would all the Casas in the room raise your hand? Raise it high. Thank you for giving our children a voice and a chance at a childhood. They all raised their hands to commit to help put a child's life back together one piece at a time and our community back together one child at a time. They can't do it alone. So why are you here? I believe it is because a child needs you. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Chip Turner. He is a member of ProKids Friends of Children Society, a business community leader, and proud father and grandfather.